Allie Buchman with the Potomac Bead Company, and I am going to do a tutorial for you today featuring our RounTrio bead, which is a 3-hole round bead that's 6 millimeter, and we're going to be using that along with some bugle beads. This bracelet I'm calling the Aloe Bracelet, with that RounTrio in the middle, and then we're going to be using mini duos as well as the bugles. If you do need any of the materials for this, on the left hand side here we'll do a little drop down which will have listed the different links to the materials if you do need to purchase them from me online. You can also get them at your local Potomac Bead Company store or go right down below the video here into the detailed descriptions, and that'll give you links for the products as well. For the Aloe Bracelet, you are going to be using the RounTrios, and here in the example piece I used the aqua color of the RounTrio, or I'm sorry, the pastel turquoise color of the RounTrio. And for the bracelet that we're going to be doing as a video, I'm going to be using the aluminum silver color. You will use approximately 9 to 11 RounTrios depending on the size of your wrist. I'm going to be using 9 to 10 of them as I build and continue. In addition to the RounTrios, we are using mini duos. So the mini duos here in the example piece are the opaque green color. And I'm going to stick with that green, but a much different version of it. This is the matte green iris. So it has a nice kind of purpley, bluey, and green hint to it. We're going to be pairing that with the aluminum RounTrio, and it's going to make it pop a little bit more. In addition to those two beads, I have on here a 6 millimeter bugle bead. And this here is the metallic khaki iris color of the 6 millimeter bugle. For the example piece that we're making, I'm going to be using the opaque mauve, so bringing in a little purple hint. And then I did use the galvanized gold for my 11-0 on the sample for the Aloe bracelet here, and I'm going to pop out some color. Since I'm using silver for the RounTrios, I'm going to use one of these new Duracoat opaque colors. This is the Duracoat dyed opaque sea opal in the 11-0, which is a Miyuki seed bead. To close off the bracelet, I'm going to use a cup button in the zinc iris color. If you do need a cup button, you're not sure which colors you want to get, the zinc iris matches a ton, so just a heads up on that. It's a good color to match a lot of different things, whether or not it's gold or copper or silver, it's going to match a ton. The whole bracelet is going to be strung on 0.006 wildfire beading thread in the gray color. It's going to hide and mask any thread that I do see a tiny bit of right at the ends. It's going to mask it really, really well. You won't see it at all. It is a 1 needle project, so I do a lot of 2 needle projects, so some of you might be happy to hear that it's 1 needle. You could do it with 2, but I'm using 1 size 10 needle. I'm working on my bead on it board here, and this is one of the newer finishes. This is the Poppies bead on it board, the 8 by 11 size, and then I also recently opened a 9-inch round, so I'll give you guys a review on that at some point also. Also handy, one other thing, is my thread Zep 2. And then just in case you need it after you burn down your thread end, in order to get your needle and thread on, you may want to have a needle nose pliers or a flat nose pliers in order to pinch down the end of your thread, so it makes it easier to thread your needle. The very start of this bracelet, is going to go right down the center. So you want to lay out a collection of your RounTrios, your 11-0, and your bugle bead to get us started. Cut about 5 feet of beading thread, and then we will go ahead and add thread as we get further along the project. So to start out, I have my thread that I've put a stop bead on. If you're unfamiliar with a stop bead, it's just a seed bead that'll come off the project after you get to the end of it. It's going to stop my beads from falling off as I'm working with them. It's a bead that I usually do not use in my project. That way I remember to take it off and I don't accidentally string through it. You're just going to leave about a 2-inch tail, string through that bead 2 times in the same direction. Once the stop bead is on, I'm going to start with my center row of the bracelet. The center row is a very, very simple, easy pattern, starting with an 11-0, and then my RounTrio, I'm going to go through the center hole. After the RounTrio, an 11-0 goes on, then my bugle, and then an 11-0, and then your next RounTrio. Let that all drop down to that stop bead and continue on with that same project, or excuse me, pattern of 11, bugle 11, and then separate that out with a round trio, making sure you're going through the middle bead. I have about a 6 3/4 inch wrist, but I'm going to make this bracelet just a little bit bigger. So I'm going to make pretty much a standard 7-inch bracelet. So I'm going to string on this pattern for just under that amount of length, which is going to give me about 9 of my round trios on. So continue with that pattern, just about 1/4 inch off of whatever you need your wrist length to be. So after you put your pattern on here, you get down the middle. I did end up adding 10 of my round trio beads onto the design to get that length. So if you do need that 11th bead on, go ahead and put that 11th bead on there if you want to make the fit pretty comfortable, because it is a wider bracelet. Once I'm out the end of this round trio bead, we're going to get ready, actually, because we are in the center, we're going to add our cup button. To place my cup button on, I'm going to add 4 of my 11O seed beads. I'm then going to go up through the back of the cup button. When I come out the top here, I'm going to add 3 more 11Os down the back of the cup button, add 3 more 11s, and I'm going to go down through that last, first bead that I added before I went up the cup button. What that's going to do is create a little V that's going to hold the cup button in place. From there, I'm going to go from my first hole, or my middle hole rather, of my round trio to the outer hole of the round trio, and we're going to add in this collection here of our mini duos. To do so, I'm going to pour out some of my mini duos here. I have on my 11O. I'm going to add 1 more 11O and then go through the outer edge of my last round trio. So you can see right there the effect that it has. When I'm on that outer edge of the round trio, I'm going to loop back around, basically going from the progression point of the bracelet going down to the outer edge here. To do that, we're going to put on 1 11O, 3 mini duos, 1 more 11O, and then I'm going to go back through that same hole that my thread is coming out of, which is going to loop those mini duos right along this side of my project. So you can see those are going to hang out right there along the side. When you're out of that third hole of the round trio, that hole to the far right, I'm going to add 3 11Os, another mini, and 3 seed beads. Now we simply follow that pattern, go down into the right hand hole of the next round trio, add 1 11, 3 minis, 1 11, circle around going back through that same round trio hole. They're all going to stay to the same side, even if it kind of flops around here as you're working on it. Don't worry about that, because we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. So again, in between the round trios, it goes 3 seed beads, 1 mini, 3 seed beads, into the next round trio, and then circle back through that round trio by adding 1 11, 3 minis, 1 11, and come back down that same round trio hole, which is going to push those minis off to the side. So you can see the effect now that it's having down the side here, connecting those round trios together and establishing the right and the left hole. I'm going to continue down the whole length of the bracelet till I come out the end of the last round trio, and then I'll show you how to make a loop for the clasp, and we'll go back the other side, repeating this same pattern. So once you're done the first starting side, I'm coming out of the right hand hole of my round trio. I'm going to add 1 11-0 and then sew through that starting 11 at the very start of the project right next to that stop bead. That's going to push that bead forward a little bit. Don't worry about that because we will actually add another bead to the other side. When I'm coming out that center bead, this is going to give me an opportunity to make my loop for my cup button. I'm going to pull out a couple more 11-0s here. And go ahead then and string on about 22 of them. Once you have those beads on, you can decide if you do want to do a different clasp. If you want to use a metal clasp or something else. I find the buttons really easy to put on as bracelets. That's why we use them so often, and that's why we created them. But as you are getting done here, if you want to use a toggle clasp or a lobster clasp or something metal, you can also stick on your wire protectors at this point. I would still add 1 11-0 seed bead before those wire protectors or those wire guards, and 1 11-0 seed bead after it. And then your clasp would be right along in the middle. After I have my beads on here, I'm going to come back down through that same center 11-0, bringing my needle out. Make sure then that your loop is big enough for your button to fit through. And once I'm out that center 11, I'm going to add another 11. And we're going to go from the first or the middle hole there to the outer hole of that last round trio. And what that's going to do again is just kind of create that little V there at the end. Even though I haven't reinforced my loop, that doesn't matter because I have to come back down the project, so I'll do that at another point. What I'm going to do now is just like I did on the previous side, circling around, adding my 3 minis with the 11s on each side, going back through that round trio that I just sewed through, and then in between adding my collection of my 3 11s, my mini duo, and then my 3 11s. This will take us then down the opposite side of the bracelet, so that way we're evening up, and we're going to be done then with the center section here of that mini duo and the gold beads, and then we get to start adding and doing our little outer edge. I'm now to the end of this second side here, adding in my little almost floral look with the seed beads in the middle on the sides of the bugle. And I'm coming out my last round trio. I have 1 11-0 on my needle. I'm going to go up through that center bead, just like I did almost on the opposite end, to create that little V right after the trio. And then I'm going to use this opportunity to reinforce my cup button, going through the 3 beads leading up to the cup button with 3 beads that are at the top of the cup button, and then down the 3 beads on the opposite end. When I exit, I want to come down the 11-0 that's coming out of the middle of that trio, and then pick a side. It doesn't matter whether or not you're going to the right or the left. And I'm going to go through the 11 on the side here and out the 11 right before the mini duo. Once I'm out that 11, I basically need to do a little step up on the side to get to the top hole of that mini duo. To do so, add 2 11-0s and then go from that 11-0 on the side here to the top hole of the mini duo. That's just going to decorate the side with a couple extra seed beads so you don't see the thread. I now get to do my second part of my stitch here, which is going to be a rotation of 2 more mini duos added in. So I'm coming out the top hole of the mini duos that I put on the previous row. I'm going to add a mini duo to the needle, and then I string through the next mini duo that's already there. Add a second mini duo, and string through the next mini duo that's already there. So 2 more mini duos get added right above the sets of 3 that are already there. When I'm coming out the side of that last mini duo of each set, I'm going to add 2 11s. We sew through the mini duo above the bugle, add 2 more 11s, and then we're going to sew through the mini duo for the next set of 3. When I'm coming out those mini duos on the top, again, I'm going to add 2 more, one at a time. Add 1, sew through that center mini duo, add another, and sew through the next mini duo. After I make sure that the mini duos are laying correctly, I give a nice little tight tug there, go back in and add 2 11s on either side of the mini duo on top of the bugle. So 2 11s go on the needle, through the mini duo, and 2 more 11s. Then you're going to go in and get ready to add your 2 more minis above that round trio bead. Come down the whole left side doing it, and then I'm going to show you how we switch over to do it on the right as well. After adding to this first side, I'm going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads, then sew into that 11-0 right below the super duo grouping, up through the edge here, and then into the loop. This will reinforce that loop. If you want to, you could also do peyote stitch on the loop to make it a little bit fancier. Again, if you have a metal loop or something with a clasp, traditional clasp, you want to go ahead and reinforce that now as well. Once the loop is complete, I'm going to come down that 11-0 seed bead in the center, and then basically switch over to the other side by going through that 11-0 to the left, that first seed bead, add 2 more 11s in order to step up from that first hole to the second hole, and then we're going to add in our seed beads and our super duos to mimic the first side just like we did, and that will bring us that same look on the second side. So coming out the end here of this second side, after adding in the extra super duos, I'm going to add 2 11s, and we're going to sew into that bottom 11-0 right above the third hole of the round trio, and I'm also sewing over into the next one as well. Once those 2 are in place, and I had to give a little tug there with my pliers, I'm going to skip over to the opposite side by just skipping right over into those 4 beads coming off this left-hand side. Taking my needle then through those 4 beads, I'm going to add 2 more beads and go into the second hole of the very top mini duo here. When I'm coming out the top hole of the mini duo, we're going to add our last mini duo to each side, which is going to go between the 2 mini duos. So we did a progression of 3 to 2 to 1. That's kind of where that aloe name came from. Once you're out of the top of the mini duo, add a bugle to your thread, go through the mini duo that sits above the bugle and in between the round trios, give a nice tight pull, and that will set that mini duo from that little aloe piece there sticking straight up. Add another 6mm bugle and sew through the top hole of the next mini duo set. Give a tight pull to make sure that sits in a nice V. Add another mini duo and sew through the second one in that set, and then add bugles again. Adding a bugle, sewing through that top hole of the mini duo between the trios, making sure that sits above the seed beads that are already through that hole, adding another bugle, and then sewing up the top to the next, add the next little peak there to our aloe leaves. I'm going to continue down this left side and then skip over to the right side doing the same thing. Once you're done adding the bugles and the mini duos here, you simply add 2 seed beads to step down, and then I sewed through all the seed beads here along the edge as well as these here. Coming out the second side then, add 2 seed beads, sew into the top there of that aloe leaf, and continue down the right hand side here, adding in 1 more of my mini duos and then my bugles. After establishing the bugles there on the side as well as adding in the last mini duo, I'm going to go from one side to the other by adding 2 of my 11 O's. At the same time, I'm also going to reinforce my button clasp here and go up through that button and out to the outer edge. So my needle is exiting those last beads right before my last mini duo bead. Coming out these last seed beads, add 2 more 11s and go to the top of the exterior mini duo. When I'm coming out of that mini duo, I'm going to add 2 more seed beads and sew down my bugle bead. Instead of sewing through the mini duo, I'm going to sew directly over to the next bugle bead, add 2 seed beads through the mini duo, 2 more seed beads, and then down the bugle and up through the bugle next to it. We're going to do this on the right hand side here as well as on the left hand side, just decorating that outer edge with those seed beads. After coming down the left side and the right side, adding my 2 beads, which to get from one side to the other, it's the same process, just adding 2 seed beads on the side and then going down the middle here. What I'm going to do to actually finish the project is go through the middle line of my round trios because I'm on the opposite end of my stop bead, feeding the thread down the middle line of the trios. So coming out those 4 beads there and then dropping down that middle round trio, it's going to reinforce the middle edge, and then it'll also give me a point once my needle is there to simply do a square knot and tie off my thread. Coming to the end of the project then, I did go back down through the middle and I simply tied off the thread ends after going through that middle bead. I'm then going to pick up my thread burner here, press on the side of the thread burner, and just burn down those edges. If you want, you can use a little super glue glue to get those edges down, but I'm simply going to then burn down the 2 little tails, which is going to make a stop so that way the knot doesn't come undone, and also you don't see any of those threads then anymore. After you're done that, you are finished with this aloe bracelet. I'll put it on here just to show you the look of it. It looks really cool in the different colors that it is, using the metal in the middle or even the seed beads with the metallic silver running down the middle as well. It's a fun bead that could actually be turned into great earrings as well, so there's a little challenge for you guys if you want to continue doing this aloe design and make it into a set of earrings. The other thing that I was kind of sensing when I was doing this is that it would look cool stacked one on top of the other. So there's another little challenge and design idea for you. As always, if you need any of these materials, you can shop with me online, going back to the beginning of the video, to the little drop-down menu, or underneath the video. If you like this video and you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, you can also subscribe to the channel. You'll get regular updates when we get new products in, new things that are coming to the market, new trends, as well as all of these great new beading techniques and designs as well. You can also share this video with friends. I know some people have been looking for round trio patterns, so if you want to share it with them, you can share the video with individuals as well, or people that have any mini duos or anything in mind. The other thing that you can do is on the video page here, or when you're on our actual Potomac Beads YouTube site and on the home page, there's a little magnifying glass. You can always use that to search for different products and see all the videos that those products are used in. So there's a little helpful hint, since you're only using, 10 to 12 of your round trio beads, you'll have some extra. Check out the other designs as well, and we're constantly adding new ones to that. As always, have fun beading. If you get a chance, stop by one of your local Potomac Bead Company stores. We'd love to help you out there as well with these fun round trios and the mini duos. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, this aloe bracelet, and have fun creating and using a fun use for the long bugles as well, which only usually pop up during Christmas time. So this is a kind of fun use of them in different colors. Thanks everybody for watching, and have fun creating the aloe bracelet.